The first step to generating a dossier and a binder is to create a regulatory action associated with the registration you wish to create that dossier and binder for. So in this example, I have found registration R440 and created a regulatory action R440-15. This regulatory action is currently in the planned state. I've completed the appropriate metadata as done in previous regulatory actions. I'm now going to select the dossier template by clicking on the binder field. And I want to note there are various templates that have been developed for different binder structures. So if you are creating a new submission, you would want to select from those new submission templates. However, for the most part, using Dossier Update will be sufficient to give you a basic folder structure that you can organize and create as you need. So by clicking on the blue radio button and close, you can see that it says create binder, yes, and I will hit save. The binder will take a moment to process in the background, so I will give this a few moments and then hit refresh, and the dossier and binder should appear in the appropriate section. You will receive an email that will look similar to the one on screen, letting you know when your dossier and binder requests have been generated. This dossier and binder are now located on the left-hand side of the screen under Dossier. Our dossier is generated and shows up on the left-hand side of our screen under the Dossier tab. You can also see that there is a dossier and a binder that has been generated. The binders are what will hold the folders that will ultimately contain the documents in a very structured manner. First, we are going to update the dossier metadata. This metadata will be used to export the files at a later point and ultimately submit them to the authority. I'm going to right-click on the dossier and open the link in a new tab. First, I will notice that the dossier is in the planned state. Next, I will click on the Edit pencil to begin filling out my metadata. I want to be sure to update the dossier title to something that is specific to this registration. I also want to add a very descriptive dossier subtitle. I will also be completing the competent authority field by clicking on the binoculars and then selecting the appropriate competent authority. I want to continue through my various metadata fields and enter as much relevant information as possible. I'm going to enter my submission date, and then hit save. Next, we will be uploading and ensuring that all documents that will be a part of this submission have been properly uploaded and categorized in the Viva document library. We will begin this by opening the Documents tab in a new window and creating a new document. For this example, I will choose Upload. Documents can be uploaded into Viva based on the classification of those documents. So for example, I have two documents that I want to upload that are both labels. I can upload these at the same time to save some work. As you can see, I've drug the two labels from my desktop and then classified them as certificate label and hit next. When you upload more than one document at a time, you have the option to fill in metadata that applies to both documents. This will save you some time and repeat work. So that's what I will do now, is fill in metadata that applies to both these documents. You can see that I've completed all the metadata that applies to both documents. So in this case, this is what I've completed. The regulatory action is very important, and I'd like to highlight, by filling in this regulatory action, you're able to search much more efficiently for the documents when you go to add them to your dossier. I will now hit apply. This applied the metadata that has been entered to both documents. By now unselecting a document, I'm able to make edits to that specific document. So this one that is checked, I will begin by filling in the rest of the metadata that I feel is important. I will now hit apply and move to the next document for specific edits. In the same premise, I will hit apply and ultimately save. These documents are now showing up in draft. Because I know that they are ready to be released, I can enter each document and release them. I will continue this process with all remaining documents that I want uploaded for this submission. I have now uploaded all documents that I want to include in this submission. You can see that by placing the regulatory action in the title, along within the metadata of the document, Viva is able to pull these documents simply by searching the regulatory action. However, there is one document that I did not need to upload because it already is found in Viva. However, I do need to tag the regulatory action in this document so that I can easily identify it for later. I'm going to begin by searching for the M number, which is our legacy document ID. I'm going to click on this document, edit the metadata, scroll down to regulatory action, and select 440-15. This will now link this certificate of composition directly to my regulatory action that I'm working on, and I will save. Returning to our dossier, we are going to open the binder in a new tab. You can do this by right-clicking and open link in new tab. It is first very important to update the information section on the right-hand side of the binder screen. You can do this by selecting the edit pencil and editing the file name to something a bit more specific than dossier update. Once this data has been updated, you can save. Next, we will look at the binder structure on the left-hand side of the screen. There are two views that you can view the binder structure in. First, there is what's called a compact view, which is what you see here on the screen. There is also an outline view. I recommend switching to the outline view to better edit your binder. We will now select Edit Binder. This will give us the option to begin adding documents to the current folder that is here, or adding additional folders for more specific organization. By clicking on the three action dots, you can see your options to add a sibling section or a child section. We'll add a child section now. You can see the first folder that I added was called Administrative Documents. I want to now add a few more. Once I'm happy with the folder structure that I have laid out, I can begin to add documents to these specific folders. By selecting the Add button, you can add existing documents and simply search for your registration action number. Because we filled in all of our metadata correctly and in an organized fashion, we're able to search for our regulatory action and see the documents that are associated with that regulatory action. We will now be able to drag and drop these documents into the appropriate folder. You can do this by clicking on the highlighted section in the corner and dragging that document into the appropriate folder. You can see that the document has now been added. You will proceed with this methodology until all documents are in an appropriate folder. You can now see I have added all the relevant documents to the relevant folders, and I am done editing and adding documents to these folder structures. I will next click Done Editing. Something to point out is this Set Binding option. For this feature, it will allow the user to set the document to the most recently released version. So if you are using studies in your submission, you may want to check the Set Binding option and decide which version of the document you would like to submit. We can now expand all or collapse all to see what our binder looks like. If you are happy with the information in your binder, you can now move this status to the correct state of submitted. You see I received this error message. This is letting me know that some of my bindings are not set to the most recent version. So I'm now going to Edit Field and Set Binding to bind documents to their latest steady state. And now Done Editing. Submit. Returning to the Dossier page, you can now see a link to the binder structure we created, and it shows that this is in the submitted state. We want to now move the dossier to the submitted state as well. The dossier and the binder are connected, so if you choose, you can simply move the dossier to submitted and it will automatically move the binder to submitted as well. In returning to our regulatory action, we are now ultimately ready to move our regulatory action to the submitted state. Enter the expected approval date and begin the workflow. This is the final step in completing your dossier and binder build.